There is a storm coming, a storm which will affect you and everyone you know. Already the waves are lashing at our country. It is the destruction of our economy, and you can see it day by day, bit by bit. Empty stores, people begging for money, increasing joblessness. It's something that just can't be hidden, although the powers that be have tried very hard to do so. When you turn on the news, you hear stories about medicine or healthcare. Perhaps a few hundred people got a few low-paying jobs. This is what they try to distract you with. But all around you, if you look closely, are the signs of what's really occurring. You see that store right there? It's right next to the light rail stop in downtown Tempe. Literally, it's directly across the way from the stop, and it's empty. Today, there happens to be an art festival on Mill Avenue, so the road's closed off, and it's quite busy. But on any other day, it would be empty, slow, would not see the levels of pedestrian traffic that you're witnessing now. The light rail system, like most public transportation in Arizona, is for the most part unused. But that's changing, because people are still losing their jobs, and so desperation is forcing them to resort to those things which before they might have shunned, such as the bus, or even bicycles. Here's a street scene from the art festival. It was quite lively. One of the things I noticed was while there were many people, most of them were eating or drinking, and not many were buying. It was a 3-day festival, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I attended for 2 of the days. What's noticeable was that on Sunday, that's when the majority of the buying occurred, because the art dealers who are set up in their booths all along the street were much more willing to unload their merchandise at cheaper prices, because the festival was going to end on Sunday. This section of Tempe used to be quite lively back in the day, before a new complex was built for shopping about a block and a half away. Now everyone goes there because, face it, who wants to pay for parking and fight through cramped corridors? Not to mention all of the panhandling that goes on in this public section. The new complex, called Tempe Marketplace, is completely private property. The panhandlers aren't allowed to walk the street there, so to speak. One of the things that is most striking about downtown Tempe is, if you look up, there's a building many, many stories high, and it looks like it's completed, but it's not. The project died almost towards its completion, lost all the funding, and the construction company went bankrupt. They managed to finish it just enough so that it looks respectable, but it sits there an empty shell. And that's a very perplexing thing, considering that the location is prime property for Tempe. But like everything else, the times have changed. Lots of people looking, restaurants that are full. Mill Avenue itself has changed from mostly being businesses and commercial area to simply a dining street with a hair salon here and there, and also maybe a bank. This is right down by ASU, I might add, one of the largest universities in the country. Got about 60,000 people, last count. Here we have another street scene, people bringing out their dogs, having a good time. The music's going. People are pretty much forgetting about their problems. But the problems, they're still there. I don't quite know what to tell you nowadays about the national economy. We'll step away from the local for a bit. It's hard to say, really. I mean, the truth and reality are just going in 2 different directions. What's reported doesn't seem to be accurate, actually grossly inaccurate, I might say. If you believe the government statistics, then unemployment is declining, and things are getting better. But if you believe your own eyes, that would not be the case. I myself don't see it here in Arizona, and from the people I've talked to, most others don't see that either. I don't know where the sunshine is coming from to flood the TV and the business news networks, but I'm not seeing anything. It's all become a great propaganda game, if you would. It's a race to to get people to accept the false reality that while 10% of the population is unemployed, with another 10% underemployed, that things are getting better. That people have stopped defaulting on their loans, that they're getting new loans, that they're retooling, that businesses are restocking and preparing for a new wave of retail sales. Well, none of that's true. I don't believe any of it, except for the high levels of unemployment, really. And even though they say unemployment's at 10% and underemployment is also at 10, I think we can figure higher on those numbers. Now, the census drive is about to start, so they'll be hiring about 1 million people within the next several months. This will grossly distort the jobs report every month from now on, and I'm sure the government won't hesitate to spin that into saying that it's proof positive that the economy is rebounding. I want you to know that that is a blatant and false lie. You take out the census employment, and you're probably still going to have negative job numbers. Sometimes, when I'm watching the news or reading it seems like investors don't care about anything. Look at the Dow Jones Industrial. We're almost at 11,000. Times appear to be good. How can this be, though? I mean, when you look at the numbers, when you dig down and you see the unemployment numbers, when you see the rising interest rates, and much more specifically, when you look at the level of debt on the federal level, the state level, and the individual level, it's very obvious to see that we have some insurmountable problems in this country that will absolutely lead us to sovereign default. And apparently, the route we're going to take to get there is going to be inflation. So you look at all of this, and you ask yourself, how can the stock market be doing as well as it is today? And there is only one logical, only one true conclusion that a rational person must come to. And that is, the United States government is manipulating the stock market. I know, I wasn't much for conspiracy theories myself. But this one, well, you know, you'd go to sleep at night, you wake up, and you say, something's not right here. And then it becomes obvious what's not right, and that is the market constantly going up in the face of bad news. You need to remember that investors are self-centered, rational people who will do what's in their own best interest. They won't blindly throw their money into a pit without looking at where it's going. And I think anyone with half a brain can easily look at the future of the U.S. economy and see that we are basically done for. Now, the government needs to keep the stock market going. They need to keep the dream alive, so to speak. Because if the stock market were to crash, investment would falter everywhere. Loans would collapse. You would see bank runs. It would be like 1930 all over again in a very short period of time. That's why the government is continuing to prop up Fannie and Freddie Mac, because if they didn't do so, the housing market would instantly collapse. And once the housing market collapsed, the stock market would collapse. And once the stock market collapsed, there goes the banks. It's always a game of dominoes, and the government has to constantly be watching those dominoes to make sure they don't begin to fall. Now, do I agree with this? I suppose so. I would much rather that we live as we are today than live as we are going to have to eventually. I want to put off those rain clouds for as long as possible. But for some of you listening to this, it's already too late, and you're living in the thunderstorm. Soon we all shall. Soon we all shall. Night is falling on our country, on our way of life. The world we know is ending, slowly, quietly, violently. I bid you farewell for now, but we shall talk again, as we have much to discuss, as everything unravels around us. Thank you for your time, and I wish you well. Good luck.